Well, it is clear that a lot of us Bulls fans were looking forward to this offseason because we figured that the Bulls were going to be cooking up something. They had to. We knew that, especially once they made the Vucevic trade, for all intents and purposes, the clock started ticking right there and then and now. This is the window. You're not a rebuilding team anymore. And the trading away of a couple of first-round picks, the development of Zach LaVine into an all-star player, like, you are not a rebuilding team. And therefore, mindset must change. And we all knew this. And we knew about the rumors for months about the Bulls' purported interest in Lonzo Ball. And apparently Lonzo Ball's interest in them. And, a lot of us were expecting that move to happen at the trade deadline, and it ultimately did not. But at the beginning of free agency, it certainly did. For a team that needed an upgrade at the point guard position, for a team that needed an upgrade in terms of their perimeter defense, they needed somebody else that could be a facilitator and distributor, somebody that could space the floor at least a little bit. They got that in Lonzo Ball. And I will say this about that deal. 4 years, $85 million was at the high end of what I thought he should have gotten. So the Bulls stayed in the right price range, in my humble opinion. Crazy to think that he's making more money than Zach LaVine at this moment for the 2021-2022 season. But hey, that's the nature of the beast. But Lonzo Ball, you're looking at him. This guy's had 4 years in the league, still very young. He's a average scorer, improved shooter. So he's not a knockdown type of shooter. But he is a guy that defenses can't sag off of too much because he did show the ability to more consistently hit the perimeter jump shot in this 2020-21 season. And with that opens up the floor for LaVine, that opens up the floor for Vucevic. It is a good move. And when you talk about his ability to defend multiple positions, it certainly makes sense why Bulls fans for months were kind of high on the thought of Lonzo Ball, hopped up on the big baller brand coming to Chicago. Now, we need to temper expectations a little bit because he's not an elite player. You'll be lucky to get 55 or 60 games out of him in a season. And why do you say that? Well, that's because it's the max that he's played in the first 4 years of his NBA career. He's been a little fragile. It's a little concerning. It's like an upgraded version of Michael Carter-Williams with some of the similar injury concerns. But certainly a step in the right direction, and realistically the best target that the Bulls were going to be able to go after in terms of the point guard position. I give them this. They had their target in mind, and they went out and got him. Kind of a big market, kind of move in mindset here. Now next you see the trading away of Daniel Tice to the Houston Rockets, where Rockets gave him like 4 years, what was it, $37 million, 4 years, $36 million, something like that. They get the mid-level or the trade exception in return. And then they've signed Alex Caruso. And you look at this and you say 4 years, it's quite a bit of money for him to play a somewhat limited role. But again, the Bulls needed to improve their perimeter defense because it was atrocious last season. And Alex Caruso is a high-level perimeter defender in his league. He really is. So you're talking about a guy that can space the floor again a little bit. He can play some defense in a 15 to 20 minutes per game role. The $9+ million a year for the next 4 years may feel a little high, but it's not that unreasonable. And it's always a contract in the future that you could potentially move and wouldn't have a ton of problem moving it. And he also serves, I think, as insurance for Lonzo Ball and the inevitable injury. And you're going to say, well, are you really going to play Caruso at the point? That's not necessarily my point. It's more when you think about from a perimeter defense standpoint. And those two moves are notable, or those moves are notable. And Bulls fans were already happy and excited about that. But I did tweet out after those moves happened, is that Bulls fans are sitting there doing backflips, praising this back office because they brought in one point guard and a bench player. Like, let's not be silly about this. This is not praiseworthy yet. Because once you made the trade for Vucevic, and especially with the fact that Zach LaVine is not on the max contract that the Bulls are eventually going to fucking give him anyways. He's got one more year left on his contract at that $19-ish million mark. You have to go all in, and you have to go all in now, because this is your chance to build the roster around LaVine before you have to inevitably give him the max money that you know you're freaking going to. So you've got to go out there and you've got to bring in these pieces now. You've got to go now. I saw some fans talking about, well, you know, it's a step in the right direction. There are no steps. You got to go leaps and bounds now, motherfucker. You already don't have the first round pick for 2021. That's gone. The 2023 first-round pick is likely going to be gone. You got to go now. Sounded like my old coach. You got to go now. And with that, my next thing is saying, well, especially once the DeMar DeRozan rumors started to heat up a little bit, like, they got to go big. They got to go DeMar DeRozan or Pascal Siakam. Because if they don't, then what the fuck are they doing? If they don't, are they just trying to get to be a 4th or 5th seed and hopefully maybe win one playoff series? Like, that's a mindset of mediocrity you'd expect out of other teams in the city of Chicago, such as the Bears. Yay, let's celebrate a just above 500 record and making it to the playoffs and losing. No, that's stupid. You either really suck or you're really going for it. Everywhere else in the NBA is that loser middle. It's the worst possible place to be. It's time for Chicago, specifically the Bulls, to play some big market basketball and go out there and make some big market team type of fucking moves. And that's what they did by making this deal to bring in DeMar DeRozan. Give him 3 years, $85 million, sending Thaddeus Young, Al-Farouq Aminu, a protected first-round pick, and 2 future second-round picks to the Spurs in return. Why the Spurs wouldn't want Lauri Markkanen instead, I can't really tell you. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But nonetheless, think about it like this. You've still got the right to match any offer for Lauri Markkanen that may come in. But you could also do a sign and trade where you include him as part of a package. You've got Kobe White there. You know, when you look at bringing in Lonzo Ball, bringing in Caruso, you drafted Dosunmu, like, how much of a role do you really think that Kobe White's going to have on this team? How much of a role do you really, frankly, want him to have? Markkanen and White are 2 guys that have some talent, but there's frustrations with them. They frankly could use a change of scenery, and they're not really good fits for this team anymore. They've got to go. So I'm stunned that San Antonio didn't get one or both of those guys back in return, but that certainly is great work by the Bulls front office, because now you can sit there and say those guys could be used to acquire somebody else. Well, when you look at DeMar DeRozan, you know, you're talking about a guy, still a 20-point-per-game scorer in the league, you know, great mid-range game, another really good athlete on the perimeter. You can maybe have some questions about, you know, once he was traded away from Toronto, they brought in Kawhi. That's when they won the championship, but you could probably say that about a lot of people and a lot of all-stars. But the reality is, when you look at the situation, DeMar DeRozan was going to be about the best that the Bulls could actually do, either him or Siakam. And frankly, when you look at DeRozan, his contract is more reasonable. It's for a lower amount each year than what Siakam's would be for the next 3 years. And you could also say that you're still getting the remaining kind of high-level peak years of DeMar DeRozan's career. Now, is he going to be the same level of scorer with the Bulls, with LaVine and Vucevic there? No. It's just not going to happen. When you're talking about him as like a third option, like needles pointing up for the Bulls. Like, this certainly starts to put them closer to being in a position where you can start to feel good about, could this potentially be a contending team in the East? The answer is, at this moment, as currently constructed, no, they're not. You can praise this front office for going out there and making some big market moves, and they did. They absolutely did, and I will not knock them for it. I do not have any major beefs or disagreements with any of these things, because, again, once you made the Vooch trade, you had to go all in, and you have to make do with the best of what's available, and I feel like, relatively speaking, the Bulls have generally made the best of what's available. There are risks there, sure, but there are always going to be risks. No risk it, no biscuit type of thing. Like, you got to get into a position where you can compete with a Milwaukee, or compete with a Philadelphia, compete with a young, hungry Atlanta team. You know, some of those teams in the Eastern Conference. You had to do more. But the reality is, the Bulls' work should not be done here. You trade away Thad, so that's a valuable bench piece that you no longer have, which is why, frankly, I would have rather seen Lowry go in that deal than Thad. It feels like it's a perfect team for Thad to be on. But now, you look at this Bulls team and you say, okay, what's next? They have several needs. You can always use more shooting, but in particular, they could use a more traditional power forward, somebody that can defend down low, somebody that can rebound, maybe be a paint presence, block some shots, or maybe somebody that's kind of like that swing 4-5 guy, which is what Daniel Tice was, I thought, and I was hoping they were going to keep him. Was that getting that trade exception from Houston really worth it? I don't know. Especially because Tice is perfect for that. Like, you need some size up front. You need some depth up front. You're going to need some defense up front. And that's a concern area to me with the Bulls right now. And if Lonzo Ball goes down with an injury, which is inevitably going to happen based off of his track record of the first 4 seasons of his career, what the hell are you going to do when it comes to having somebody set up your offense? Are you going to run it through Levine? Is that really going to work when he's kind of a ball vacuum himself? You know, there's a question there. And they've got more work to do. You know, as far as I'm concerned at this point, fucking go nuts. See what you can put together in a package that involves Lowry and Kobe. Get them the hell out of there and bring somebody else in that can fill one of those roles of one of those big needs that these other two guys, frankly, aren't going to do. Get to the point where your destination where guys want to come to you, quality role players want to come to you and play for the minimum or play for a part of all of a mid-level exception because they believe in you and they think that you have a chance and that they can win a title with you. But the Bulls are absolutely not championship contenders the way this team is currently constructed. They're closer. They're going to be much more exciting this year. They certainly could be a 3 or 4 seed in the East. Yes, that's true. Probably a 4 seed because I don't know if they're going to be good enough to beat Milwaukee. But then what? You know, and the reality is they're probably one more big piece away. They really are. And the big piece that they really need is the true alpha, which they don't have. And some of you are going to disagree with me vehemently in the comments that Zach LaVine is that. He's not. And you're going to see that change a little bit now, even though you're still talking about a young player only in the beginning of his mid-20s, who still in theory has time to grow and improve his game and maybe hasn't reached his true peak of prime. But, you know, Vucevic is going to take away some of the shots that LaVine used to get. DeMar DeRozan is going to demand some shots. So LaVine's not going to be scoring at the same level. What else is he going to bring to the fucking table? And when you talk about his abilities in the clutch, they are very hit or miss. I promise you. You know it. So, you can't get the alpha. Well, then you need another dog. You need another dude that you can really count on. And some of you are going to point to Patrick Williams potentially developing into that guy. And I would say, based off of what you saw out of him as a rookie, what makes you think that he could be that? What makes you think that he has the consistent aggressiveness to be that level of player? Furthermore, now with some of the changes that this team has made, what makes you think that he's even guaranteed to be a starter in this lineup? What makes you think that he doesn't just become some type of six-man dude? What makes you think he's going to get enough opportunities or enough chances with a Levine and a Vucevic and a freaking DeMar DeRozan and even Lonzo Ball? He's the fifth man, if anything, in a 5-man starting rotation. He's not developing into much more than what he was as a rookie at that pace. At this point, he's expendable. At this point, he should be packaged with Lowry and Kobe and see what the hell you can really get. And if they can make the cap shit work out for Siakam, I still say bring him the fuck in and let him be the starting 4. Go nuts. Go for broke. The mindset must change, people. They need more pieces off the bench. They need help in the front court. And they really need another top-level dude to compensate for the lack of a true alpha. You've come this far as an organization in Chicago. You've got to take that next step and go the distance. I'm excited about the acquisitions of DeMar DeRozan and Lonzo Ball, sure. They make them a much better team on paper, in theory, come next season. Agreed. They address some key deficiencies by bringing some of these guys in, but they still have key deficiencies. If you want to bang with the Milwaukee, or you want to bang with some of the teams out west, if you're thinking you have delusions of the finals, this team ain't getting the fucking job done. They're not good enough to get there. You got to go for broke. Go the distance. You come this far, why stop now?